All right. Hi, everyone. Really nice to meet you. Hopefully, you're having a really great week. Today, we are joined with Rajan Anandan, who's the managing director of Sequoia Capital, as well as Surge, which is Sequoia Capital's rapid scale up program for India and Southeast Asia. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to Rajan. Hi, Rajan. How are you? How have you been?
Good. Very good, Alicia. Thank you. Great to be back in the Surge Decoded session.
Yeah, we've been running this now. This is our third edition of Surge Decoded, and obviously have heard your feedback. We've also we've got like over 230 questions from you guys. While we can't go through the 230 questions, we've tried to sort out like many of the common questions that you guys have. Answer any questions that you have about Surge, about the application, the program, the process, basically everything you want to know. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Rajan. Rajan, I heard you wanted to do a poll today.
Yeah, actually, well, firstly, thank you, Alicia, for setting this up and the rest of the Surge team for setting this up. We found that this is a good way for us to address questions that all of you have about Surge. Before we get started, we thought we'd do something interesting. We wanted to run a set of polls just to understand exactly the audience, all of you that have dialed in. So first of all, thank you for dialing in. And also thank you for sending us several hundred questions. We won't be able to answer all of them, but we'll try to get through as many of them as we can. But it's good for us to know what's top of mind for all of you. So, what we'd like to do is we're using this product called ahaslides.com. So if you can actually just scan this QR code, and that'll take you to the ahaslides.com decoded page on the mobile web. So if you all can just take a minute, take out your smartphones and scan this QR code.
All right. We could see 34 people live, so feel free to
So the rest of you, I know there's many more of you here. So basically, look, we'd love to hear. That way we can be more targeted. So this is pretty important. There's at least another 3 times as many of you that haven't gone to ahaslides.com. So please take out your smartphone, just open up your camera, take a look at the QR code. That'll take you to the slide. That'll take you to the website. How are we doing? Oh, there you go.
There you go.
You can do that too.
Yes. And if you are on your desktop, you can also go to ahaslides.com/decoded.
Oh yes,
so
there you go.
I put the link in the chat, so feel free to copy paste that, put it in your browser. Should work out fine as well. All right. I think we have a pretty good bunch. Shall we?
Yeah, let's go to the next. Yes, let's go to the next. Okay, so first poll question is: have you applied to Surge yet? All right. By the way, only less than 1/5 of this group is on AHA Slides, but that's okay. I assume the rest of you are here to observe. Okay, so we have about 40% of the sample size group. Suresh, you need to not say no here. Ideally, you should be on ahaslides.com, and you can actually, otherwise you won't be counted in the survey, in the poll survey that we're doing. Okay, all right. So about 40% you've applied to Surge, 60% have not. Okay, that's great. Thank you. That gives us a pretty good sense of the audience. Okay, so for those of you, there's about 60% of this group that has not applied to Surge. So we wanted to get a sense, are you thinking about applying? They should have said, are you planning or thinking about applying to Surge in the next 3 months? Okay, terrific. So it sounds like either you've applied to Surge or you plan to apply to Surge in the next 3 months. That is fantastic. All right, very good. Very good. So that's good. Okay, and then the last poll that we have, please indulge us. Which sectors are your companies operating in? How do they answer this one? Do they just write it down, Alicia, or?
Just type it down. It's a word cloud.
Just type it down. Just type it. Okay, ed tech, legal tech. All right, let's keep going, guys.
Retail, cybersecurity. Wow, look at that. SaaS companies, Rajan,
That's
fintech,
awesome.
agri-tech.
All right,
Look,
edtech, agri-tech, deep tech, fintech.
hospitality, SaaS, food tech, passion economy, consumer brand. Looks like we have a large variety.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have, looks like edtech, fintech maybe leading the charge here. Is that the way to read this, Alicia?
Yep.
Since they're the biggest ones, there are probably multiple edtech companies, multiple fintech companies. Next, I see maybe possibly many SaaS companies. I see some community companies, some productivity companies. Okay, awesome. So I think it's pretty representative of Surge, where we actually have a broad variety of tech and tech-enabled companies. That's awesome. All right, Alicia, with that, let's get into the questions.
All right. That's super excited to see all of your questions. Thank you so much for submitting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ones that came in from HubSpot first. If there's anything that's burning, the search team will help to alert me as well if there's any burning questions from your end. So we're going to start today with a question from Kanchan Dwivedi. What is the search program's expectation from the founders? And given the diversity of startups and stages, what would be the success criteria at the end of a search program?
So Alicia, repeat the question again. It's a long question.
Given the diver Yeah, it is. Given the diversity of startups and stages, what would be a success criteria at the end of the search program?
Okay, it's a great question. So I think, as all of you know, look, Surge is the way to think about Surge, right? It's multiple parts to the quote unquote Surge, what we call Surge. First, there's capital. We invest $1 to $2 million in a company, right? So that happens before you come into Surge. Second is a 14-week program, which is sort of the Surge program, if you will, which used to be offline. And then third part of it is we have extensive hands-on mentoring and support from the Surge team, the broader Sequoia team, as well as a group of mentors that we have. And that really is in the areas where the company needs help the most. If you need help in product, it's in product, in sales, or in marketing, or whatever, in team building, hiring, etc. And then the fourth part of it is upsurge, right? Which actually we had upsurge for our last cohort about 2 weeks ago, where whenever the company is ready to raise their next round of financing, they can come to upsurge, where they'll meet between 15 and 20 investors who are very interested in their business. It's 45 minutes per meeting. Over 2 or 3 days, you meet a large number of investors, right? So all of that put together is sort of how we like to think about Surge. So I think now to get to the specific question, look, what is success? I think success for us when you come to Surge is not something that we and you will determine at the end of 4 months, right? Our mission at Surge is to help the absolute best founders in our region, India and Southeast Asia, India, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, build enduring companies, right? So if you ask me, when will we know whether you were successful and whether Surge was successful in helping you? It'll probably be a decade from now. And it'll probably be based, not probably, it will be based on, did you become an enduring company? Right? Did you have massive impact on the consumers or the businesses that you're serving? Did you build an extraordinary team? Did you build a business model that is very, very powerful, right? And did you have an impact on, at a minimum, your country, but hopefully your region and on the world? So real success will be determined 10. For some of you, may actually even be 15 years from now, right? So that's sort of the way we think about it. We don't declare victory at the end of 4 months. Or 5 months. Now, that being said, what we would like every company in Surge to do is make sure that they get a couple of things out of the Surge program, right? One, that as founders, they're able to think very differently about the kind of company that they're building, right? So thinking long term, thinking about having an obsessive focus on users, having an obsessive focus on customers. So there are a number of learnings that they have, right? Second, every company that comes into Surge. So in the last cohort, we had 15 companies. This next cohort that'll start in mid-November, we'll probably have between 17 to 18 companies. We already have 16, so we might have, we will certainly have 3, 4 more that we'll select over the next couple of weeks. And those of you that have applied, I know have some questions or when you'll hear back. I'll answer that in a minute. So what every company does at the beginning of Surge is they tell they and us, we agree on what are the 2 or 3 things you want to get done over the next 14 weeks, right? So whenever Surge starts, we sort of do that, and every company defines these differently, right? For some companies, it's very simple. We want to get to product market fit, so our entire focus with that company is helping them to product market fit. For some companies, it's we just want to launch and get to product market fit. But other companies, they've already launched, they've got early signs of great product market fit. They want to scale their user base 10x, right? Some companies want to get to 10 paying customers. Some companies are already at $1 million of revenue, and they say, look, we want to get to $3 million of revenue, which is sort of hard to do in 4 months, but set a very, very ambitious goal. Some of them actually surprisingly do get there. For some of them, it's we want to hire an amazing engineering team, right? For some of them, it's basically we want to really learn about growth marketing and grow our user base from, call it 100,000 users to 500,000 users. So it's very, very specific, right? So what the company and as well as the Surge team will do is we'll work with each company to define what are those set of goals. So that's the second thing. So first thing is there are sort of lessons that you will take as a founders that will last you for many, many years, right, as you build out your company. Second is very specific sort of set of things that you want to get out of Surge over a 14-week period, right? And the third one really is the community, right? There's a lot of things that you will learn from community. You will you'll form bonds with these other 16, 17, 20 companies that are both in your cohort as well as the broader cohort, because when you come into Surge, you get access to the entire world of Surge, right? Which at this point is we have 52 founders, 52 startups, and over 100 founders in our first, second, and third cohorts. Our fourth cohort, as I said, will be 17, 18, 19, possibly even 20 companies. So you'll have that. So forming those bonds in those communities. So that's really what it is, right? So we don't declare victory, and we don't think you should declare victory at the end of 4 months, because the reality is it takes 10 to 15 years to build an amazing company. But we do hope that as founders, you take a lot of learnings away, that you've made tangible progress in your business, but that's really dependent on the business that you're in, depending on the stage, depending on the kind of company that you founded. You formed a great set of bonds with your peer group, the other founders who are going through a very, very similar journey. Some of them are in your country, some of them will be in other parts of either India or Southeast Asia, right? And obviously, we also hope that you formed great bonds with the Surge team, because we will be with you not just for 14 weeks, but for many years to come as you build out your company. So it's a long answer to your question, but please don't think of Surge as it's a 14-week partnership, right? It's the program that we have. Think of it as the Founders Academy is one part of Surge. Surge is much more than just the 14 weeks, but you should think of this as a what I would tell you is, for all our founders who've been through Surge, Surge 1, Surge 2, and Surge 3, was it successful or not? Well, we'll be able to tell you in 2030, because by then, some of these companies would have become amazing, enduring companies that would have made a mark on their countries, made a mark on the world, and other founders, may have gone on to do other things. So we will know in a decade whether we were successful or not for a specific company.
Great. All right. The next question is, can a company join Surge before the next deadline, which is March 15th? If yes, will both funds and necessary help be given after they get selected, or both will be given, once Surge 5 starts?
Yeah, no. So that's a great question, right? So for Surge 5, to give you a sense, we have already several companies, not too many, very few companies that we have selected for Surge 5, right? So just so that for those of you that aren't familiar, Surge 4 applications closed a couple of weeks ago. We committed to get back to all founders before the end of October. So if you haven't heard back from us, we are still looking at your application if you applied to Surge 4, but we will get back to you with a yes or a no before the end of October. Applications now are open for Surge 5. So what does that mean? If you think you're ready to, and if you want to raise funding now, you should apply to Surge 5. We will review your application. In a couple of weeks, we'll get back to you. And if we decide that we will partner with you and bring you into Surge 5, we will actually fund you long before the program starts, right? So the way you should think about, again, Surge, right? We are capital. We invest $1 to $2 million. We will invest the $1 to $2 million once we decide to partner with you, right? And we go through the paperwork and do the diligence, etc. And then we have a 14-week program. So Surge 5, the 14-week program will start around May, end of May, early May, end of May, early June of next year. But you don't have to wait till then. You will actually get the capital long before that if we decide to partner with you. So that's sort of the way you should think about it. And also, once we've decided to partner with you for Surge 5, in fact, this morning I spent half an hour with one of the companies we are going to have in Surge 5, right? So we already start working with those companies. In fact, yesterday I made 2 introductions to Sequoia portfolio companies that they wanted to get as clients. So we start. So once we decide that we are going to have you in Surge, whether you're in Surge 4, whether you're in Surge 5, or maybe even whether you're in Surge 6, because at some time next year, early next year, we'll start actually partnering with companies that maybe want to actually be in Surge 6, right? So that's sort of how you should think about it. Alicia, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think very clearly. I think Surge has a rolling application. So please just feel free, come in and apply whenever you think it's the right time for your company. And then I think the next question is for Surge 05, are there any particular sectors or maybe that the program is looking to include in their cohort? I think a lot of questions have come around like, oh, is B2B something we look at? Is hardware something we look at? Is energy something we look at? Lots of question about sectors. So maybe Rajan, if you can give a view about this, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So look, the short answer is we look at all tech and tech-enabled sectors, right? So as Sequoia, as well as Surge in India and Southeast Asia, we are focused on investing and partnering with startups that are tech and tech-enabled, right? So actually, for those of you that are interested in the kinds of companies we tend to partner with at Surge, invest in and partner with at Surge, you should take a look at surgeahead.com and look at our first, second, and third cohort, right? As you look at the cohorts, what you will see is it's a very broad range of sectors, right? So you have consumer internet companies, right? So Rio TV is a gaming app, right? We have a lot of edtech companies, right? So in our third cohort, we had a company called CoLearn, which is in edtech in Indonesia. In our second cohort, we had companies like Class Plus. In our first cohort, we had companies like Scalar and Doubtnut in India, right? So we do a lot of investments in edtech. We do digital health and fitness. So in our third cohort, we had a company called Fitter, which is in online fitness, right? We have the very first investment that Sequoia in this region made in agtech is a company called Bijak, which was in our second cohort of Surge, right? So we tend to invest in ag tech, right? We've got a large number of SaaS companies that we've invested in, right? So if you look at our this cohort that we just had, companies like Atlan, companies like Last9, companies like Conversite, these are all SaaS companies, right? Both in India and in Southeast Asia, right? We tend to invest in direct to consumer brands. So in the cohort that we just had, we had a company called Drink Prime, which is a water purification as a subscriptions product service in Bangalore. We had Hangry, which was a cloud food brand in Indonesia. So we have companies like Zenium, which was in our first cohort. We have companies like Skillmatics, which is which is a India to the US educational toy company. It's a direct-to-consumer brand. They sell on Amazon in the US. The company is scaling really, really rapidly. So think of them as these are digital-first brands, right? They either sell a combination of their own site as well as marketplaces. Some of them sell only on marketplaces. Some of them sell on their own site. So we tend to have quite a few of those kinds of companies. We also have companies that are in B2B e-commerce, right? So in our last cohort, we have a company called Tuxi, which is a B2B e-commerce company in the pharmaceutical value chain. In our first cohort, we had another Vietnamese company called Telio, which is basically a horizontal sort of e-commerce company in Vietnam. We have quite a number of B2B e-commerce companies across the region. In Bangladesh, our very first investment that we made as Sequoia was a Surge company in our first cohort called ShopUp. For those of you that are dialing in from Bangladesh, you're probably familiar with ShopUp. So that's a B2B e-commerce. So that's something we do. And then we also have consumer e-commerce, right? So social commerce is so in Indonesia we have a company called Chili Belly, which is a social commerce focused on fresh. We have in our first cohort, and that was in our second cohort was Chili Belly. In our first cohort, we had a company called Bulbul, which is a social commerce, video-based social commerce company in India. So as you look at all of that, it's a very broad range of companies. And what's common about all these companies is really two things, right? They all have amazing founders. So if you ask me, what's the one thing that we really over-index on, that we really look at, it's the founder quality, right? And we can talk more about that if you guys have questions on that. And secondly, they all have tech. They're tech and tech-enabled companies but they all have very large addressable markets, right? So the question that we ask is this a great founding team? And second would be, is this a space where you can build a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Because we do look for companies that can become very large in scale, not immediately, but over a period of 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And then we look for some element of tech, right? So for instance, if you're launching, let's say, a wind farm company, right? Wind energy company, rather, not wind farms, but wind energy company, that may not be something that's interested in, right? Because it's really a energy company that doesn't have a lot of tech in it. However, on the other hand, if you're doing an IoT company in the energy space, right, where you can actually help energy producers, let's say energy production companies, dramatically reduce energy consumption using IoT, digital cloud, that's interesting. Whereas if you're building let's say a hydropower company in Thailand, that's probably not as much of an interest. So tech and tech-enabled startups across a set of sectors.
Perfect. All right. Perfect segue. The next question is about when investors and mentors talk about having a good team, a good set of founders. What does that actually mean? What is the definition of that?
Sorry, say that again, Alicia. My network froze for a minute.
No worries. When investors talk about having a good team or a good set of founders, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. It's probably the most important question that we try to answer as we look at search applications, right? So look, at the end of the day, what are we looking for, right? I think first we're looking for founder market fit. And for those of you that haven't spent too much time, founder market fit, some people call it founder product fit. But we should maybe, Alicia, we can post the links to the series that we did, right? We did a whole series on raising your seed round, where we talked about a whole set of these things. But what is founder market fit? Founder market fit, the simple way to think about it is, what is your right to win in this space, right? Do you have a lot of experience in this space? Do you have any personal experience building in this space? Do you have personal experience, which is a problem that you personally faced, and therefore you've been obsessed about this problem for a long period of time, right? So let me give you, let's say I was to become a startup founder, right? Rajan Anandan became a startup founder, and let's say I embarked on building a genomics company. The founder market fit of Rajan Anandan building a genomics company is just about zero, right? I know nothing about genomics. I haven't studied genomics. I haven't worked in a genomics company. Don't have any deep experience in genomics. So genomics might be a really interesting space, and I really think it is, but I would be the wrong founder to build in that business. Whereas on the other hand, if you said, look, we want to build an ad tech company, right? That could be very interesting for Rajan Anandan because, $4-5 billion of revenue coming from ad technology. So I know, a fair bit about ad tech, right? So really asking this question of what is the founder market fit, right? What is the right that this founding team has to win in that space? And it really boils down to experience, knowledge, insight. So that's one. Second, we sort of ask this question about, as you're pitching to us, or I'll be looking at a deck, is there a unique insight about the problem that you're trying to solve that this founding team has, right? So we look for that, right? I think looking for sort of that aha moments. We're listening to you guys pitch and we sort of say, wow, that's really interesting insight, right? It's really interesting insight about the problem that consumers have, or solution that you're building. So that's number two. Third, we're trying to figure out persistence and perseverance, right? Look, the reality is it's going to take you 10 to 15 years to build a great company. Along the way, you're probably going to have 5 near-death moments, which means the company is literally about to shut down, right? Either because your co-founders broke apart, you've run out of funding, your competitor just announced that they've raised 10 times as much funding, you have a paid product and your competitor just announced that it's going to be free. You had a big lawsuit that was filed by somebody, the regulations completely changed on you, right? Look, we don't know what it's going to be, but what we do know is between now and becoming a truly enduring company, you're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 near-death moments, right? And what matters in those periods is that you're persevere, right? That you're, that you're going to persevere regardless of what. And we're trying to assess, look, is this a team that's going to stay together in those moments for 10 or 15 years? It's very hard to do, by the way. It's the hardest thing that we do, right? Is trying to figure that out. So we're trying to figure that out. And by the way, what you've done in the past is very helpful, right? If you're 26 years old, you've been in 4 jobs, you've only had, you basically spent 1 year in every company, and you started 2 companies and you only stuck with it for a year. That's not a great sign that you're going to persevere through many near-death moments for a decade, right? So we try to understand that. So we actually spend a lot of time trying to understand what have you done in the past, how does that indicate what you've done, and then we sort of say, look, is this a team that can build a great team? Because if you're going to build a great company, the reality is you're going to hire a lot of people who are much better than you, right? In a lot of areas that you know nothing about. You may be 2 engineers, right? You're going to have to hire business people, sales people, marketing people, operations people, customer success people, right? If you're a business focused team, you're going to have to hire engineers. You're going to have to hire product managers. So we're trying to get a sense of, are you going to be able to do that, right? And look, again, it's hard to do because many of you have probably never done that. So we're just trying to, again, gauge whether you're going to be able to do that. And there are certain things we look at. So it's really all of those things that we look at to say, is this a great team or not, right? It's not one thing, right? And, it's hard to sort of codify, but it is the most important criteria that we look at when we try to decide whether we should have you, whether we should be fortunate enough, we should be fortunate enough to partner with you to have you as a search company or not. So that's really, I know many of you would like it to be much more prescriptive, but if there's one thing that you should ask is, what is your founding team's right to win in this market? What unique, truly unique, deep insights do you have? Like, for instance, we figured out that in the edtech space, right, it is more likely that if you actually have a pedigree and experience as an educator and a deep understanding of education, that you may have more of a right to win. If let's say one of you comes from a deep education experience and one of you is of sort of a product and engineering, where you've built products, right? So you can actually build an edtech product, because edtech, remember, is education before it's technology, right? So and the ideal team is both education and technology combined. So this product market fit or founder market fit or founder product fit is a pretty important one, right? So ask yourself this question of, can you make the case of why you have strong founder market fit for the kind of problem that you're trying to solve? And actually, if you're honest with yourself, you'll be able to get to that answer pretty quickly.
Great. Rajan, I think we have a really interesting question. How do we think about investment with female founders?
Oh, look, we'd love to, by the way, we don't use any criteria that is different. Okay. We use the same criteria, amazing founders going after large markets, right? So we don't differentiate between criteria, but that being said, look, we'd love to see many more women founders, women teams with women co-founders apply to Surge. We were very excited in our last cohort, the 3rd cohort. We had 15 startups. 5 of our startups actually had women founders. So Nelly was a single co-founder, the founder of Tiger Hall. Tamanna, who's the co-founder and CEO of Conversite. Prakalpa, who was the co-founder and CEO of Atlan. Sonal, who's the co-founder of Fitter. And then we had a stealth company that's not announced, which has a co-founder who's a woman. So last cohort, a third of our companies had a women co-founder, including, so we backed companies with a single founder who's a woman, which is fantastic. Again, so look, at the end of the day, it's those things that I said, right? We're looking for great founding teams or great founders going after very large markets. But we'd love to see many, many more women founders and teams with women co-founders apply to Surge. It's something we're very focused on. Simply because, we think that diversity, the more diverse you are, the more inclusive you are, the more successful you're going to be as a team, right? And so we really, really value that.
That's awesome. Rajan, I'm like putting in the chat, actually the Surge team is going to be running a female founder coffee chat. So that's coming up soon. I just wanted to flag it to you guys. I put in the chat, feel free to join us for the female founder coffee chat. Rajan will be there as part of that. So yeah,
actually, on this founder coffee chat, it's not just me. We are going to have the entire Sequoia, almost all our partners. So GV Ravishankar, who basically led our investment in Byju's, who's on the Byju's board, and many other amazing companies. Shailendra Singh, who I think many of you know, co-leads Surge with me, sits on the boards of companies like Gojek and MPL and Tokopedia and many others. Right, we have Mohit Bhatnagar, who co-leads our venture team, and is on the boards of companies like Zomato, Freshworks, and so on and so forth. We have Shailesh, who co-leads the India venture team with Mohit. So actually, it's almost the entire Sequoia partnership is going to be having coffee chats with women founders. So to Alicia, I'm glad you posted that. If you're as well as Sakshi, who leads many of our consumer direct to digital first consumer brand investments. Prachi, whose initiative, she came up with this idea, who joined us very recently. So you'll see many of us from Sequoia. And by the way, this is not a pitch meeting. You should come to this because you're genuinely trying to get some thoughts, and come to us because you can ask us anything, right? The kind of people you want, do we think the idea you're pursuing is a good idea, or how should you hire your teams, or how should you think about marketing, or how should you think about sales? So it's coffee chats. You can ask us anything that you want. You don't need to bring a deck. It's not a pitch. It's just, come and spend time with us, and we'd love to get to know you, and you'll get to know us.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we're super excited to be running this. We've run this in Southeast Asia and India for quite some time. Wanted to open it up to more female founders. All right, next question. I think a lot of people asked, they got rejected for Surge 04, in which they didn't really get an individual feedback. Maybe there's some kind of tips, that you could give for those founders who got rejected within Surge 4, and you want to apply again for Surge 5. What are ways that?
No, I think it's a great question. Look, so first of all, by the way, keep in mind that if you're a founder, you should get used to rejection. By the way, it doesn't matter whether you're a startup founder or an executive or a politician or an academic. If you're going to be successful in life, you're going to have more failures than you're going to have wins. Okay, I think it's really, really important, because I find that founders get very upset about failure, and they get a rejection or whatever it is, right? So keep in mind, it doesn't matter, right? So I have run very big companies and done lots of things. I've invested in a lot of companies personally as well. I've had many more companies, many more times in my professional career that I've failed than I've succeeded, right? So it's so keep in mind that if you got a rejection from Surge, doesn't mean anything other than, you didn't make it this time around, right? And I'll give you an interesting story of a founder that I really like a lot, and a company that I think is amazing. It's a company called Dream 11. Dream 11 is the #1 gaming company in India. It's valued at several $1 billion now. Harish, who's the founder of Dream 11, talks about this. When he had to raise his Series A in 2005, which was only 5 years ago, he had 105 meetings of no's before he got a yes. Okay, this is Dream 11. Now, those of you in India know what an amazing company Dream 11 is today, right? This is only 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Harsh had 105 meetings before he raised a $5 million Series A. So, the reality is, and this is one of the things, by the way, we talk about at Surge with all our Surge founders, is you have to get used to sort of taking rejection in your stride, right? Now, that being said, look, you probably didn't get into Surge. First of all, we only have 15 to 20 companies, as I said, per cohort. We get thousands of applications for every batch. Okay, so keep in mind that, right? So it's not like, it's, the percentage of startups that actually get into Surge is quite small. But at the end of the day, why did you not get into Surge? It was probably for one or more of three reasons, right? The founder market fit wasn't clear. So when you write your application, and when you write your decks, and when you write your submission, make sure that you make it very clear as to why are you the right team to be building this company? What are the set of relevant experiences and insights that you have that are going to make you successful in building this company? Okay, so that it could be that we said, look, it's not clear why this founding team is going to win. Number one. Number two, it could be because the market that you're pursuing is not large enough, or the business that you're trying to build, we don't think it's going to become a very large business. Okay, so we do ask this question even if you're an idea stage when you're applying. If this idea is successful, if this company gets built, can this company be a multi-billion-dollar company? Okay, we ask this question, guys, and it's very important. And a lot of founders don't understand that we're asking this question at seed, where you look and say, yeah, this is a really interesting idea, but we don't see how this can become a very large business. So it could be because, you know, we just couldn't convince ourselves that this could become a very large company, right? And again, your pitch, you need to articulate why this can become a very large company, right? Because remember, we're reading an application, we're looking at your deck. That is what we have. Okay, and obviously we can't, you know, with a very very small team we have at Surge, we can't talk with, you know, several thousand founders you know, for every cohort, right? We talk to many hundreds, but we can't talk to several thousand. So that could be the second reason why we didn't select you for Surge. I think the third one is, if you've launched and you have metrics, we look at those metrics to see, can we see some early signs of user love? By the way, we don't expect you to have product market fit, because, you know, most companies at seed stage, almost all, will not have product market fit, because, you know, once you have product market fit, you can go out and raise a Series A round, right? If you've got a great team and you're going after a large market. So what we're really looking for is early signs of product market fit. And again, those of you that haven't really thought about this, please go out and watch the videos. And Alicia, hopefully you can post some of those videos. We've done sessions specifically on product market fit, right? And what we look for is user love. Are there early signs that your customers love you? You know, if you're building a consumer internet product, that boils down to retention. So if you've already launched, and let's say you've got 50,000 users, right? You've launched a consumer app, could be gaming, could be ed tech, could be health, digital health, could be whatever it is. Consumer, you know, consumer, you've launched a consumer digital product, app or a website. There's one slide you should have in your deck. It's a retention cohort slide. That one slide will tell us, is there early signs of user love or not? And it also tell us, like, even if you don't have it, it will tell us, oh, wow, this is a founder that actually looks at these set of metrics, which is a good sign, because it, you know, shows us that you kind of know what you're doing, right? And you know the kind of, you know, how to build a great digital internet company. You know, that could be one, right? We look at, let's say, you know, App Store ratings, Amazon ratings, if you're selling on Amazon, G2 crowd ratings, if you're a, you know, mid-market SMB SaaS company, right? Just in general, think about it. So we look at early signs of user love, right? If you're already generating revenue, we look at unit economics, right? And for instance, if you're already generating revenue and you don't have a slide on unit economics, that's not good, because we can't figure out, do you great unit economics or not? If you have negative unit economics, so what we mean by that is, let's say you lose money on every order, right? And you're negative, you know, like, let's say you're a negative gross margin business, that's really not good, right? Let's say you're negative CM1 business, that's not really good. If you're negative CM2 business, maybe okay if you're negative -1 CM2. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's not good either, right? Because we expect you guys, as you apply, especially if you've launched, to actually be tracking these metrics and know what these metrics are. And by the way, it's okay. By the way, I should say that it is okay not to be okay. There is no such perfect seed stage company. In fact, there's no such thing as a perfect company at any stage. But we don't expect. So the three reasons why it could have been rejected: one, founder market fit, it wasn't clear to us. Number two, we don't think this can be a big business, either because the market's not large enough or you're not solving a pain point that's large enough. And third one would be around the metrics. It's not clear whether there's great user love here, or it's not clear whether the unit economics really hold up. It's one or more of these reasons why, you know, you may not have you know, got into Surge. Now, all this being said, look, I must tell you, in every cohort, we have companies that we actually didn't think were ready for Surge. In Surge 1 or Surge 2, they got into Surge 3, right? So we have several companies in Surge 3, for instance, that actually applied to Surge 1. So what we would say is, if you think that Surge is something that you know, you would really like to be a part of Surge, don't give up, right? You know, keep coming at us, but make sure that you you know, you listen to the feedback that you get from us, right? That you learn as much about what we're looking for, which we think is why these Surge Decoded sessions are helpful. Because those of you that maybe who applied to Surge that didn't get in, which is about maybe a third of you, only about a third of you that are on this call, hopefully you're beginning to get some insight about what is it about the business or the team that we didn't think was, you know, made you ready yet. But keep in mind the Dream 11 story, because all of you, if you're going to be fundraising, keep in mind, Harsh, the founder of Dream 11, had 105 meetings before he raised $5 million. And that was Dream 11, which is now a household brand name in India 5 years later, and a multi-billion-dollar company, right? That's what it takes, guys. So you got to keep going.
All right. You know,
Hey, there was a question, Alicia. I think Piyush asked a question. Piyush, did you get answer to that question? He had applied to Surge at 2:30 p.m. today, has not received a confirmation email, Piyush. We will get back to you, Piyush.
Yeah,
I hope
Rajan
you don't.
typically.
I hope you don't mean, Piyush. We can't get back to you with the decision yet, because 2:30 p.m. was 2 hours ago. But we are not that fast yet, and you don't want us to be that fast because you want us to actually look at every application, be thoughtful about it, and then make a decision.
Yeah, in terms of confirmation email, it does take some time from the servers. So please do be patient. If in the next, let's say, couple of days, nobody's answering, feel free to email us and let or tweet or get us on social media. I think another question that we got is where will search take board seats? You want to answer that, Rajan?
Sorry, say that again. I was looking at the questions here. There's so many questions on the chat box.
It's exciting. Do search take board seats?
No, Surge does not take both seats. So I'll tell you, Surge has a very standard term sheet, and this is very important. Actually, in fact, founders are amazed to see how founder friendly our term sheets and our shareholder agreements are. Right. So we invest $1 to $2 million, depending on the company. It's a fixed price round. We don't do convertible notes. We always co-invest with others. So 80% of our companies, when they come into Surge, we co-invest with venture funds like Lightspeed, with seed funds like Bloom, or smaller funds. We also co-invest with angels. A lot of our companies have other angel investors, right? So we are open architecture model. We don't take both seats. We don't have super pro rata, right? So some of you may know about what, we have pro rata, which means we can invest in the next round. And we have a small amount of capital for every search company that we will invest as pro rata whenever you raise your next round. But we don't talk about that as much. But you should know that we don't take both seats. We don't have super pro rata rights. And then the terms are very, very standard. So we have a 1x liquidation preference, which are all very, very standard terms. So that is something you should not worry about with Surge. We are very, very founder friendly.
That's awesome. So I think like I saw a couple of questions around founder market fit. So I'm gonna try and get through that since it's a hot topic that everybody wants to understand. So this one came from the HubSpot, from the registration form. I think somebody asked was like, based on our experience, have you seen non-technical founders been successful in launching or creating a business? I've heard that using software houses are not ideal, but wouldn't a faster launch be more beneficial than a later launch? And then how have you seen like non-technical founders transition into bringing that capability in house?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Look, so first of all, you don't have to be a technical founder to be very successful, right? So if we look at our third cohort, which we just wrapped up, Nelly, who I've already mentioned, is the single founder. She is the founder CEO of Tiger Hall. Nelly is not technical, right? She doesn't come from a coding background, has not built software before. She comes from an HR consulting, leadership training sort of background, and she's building this company called Tiger Hall, which is trying to reimagine sort of learning and development for professionals. So super, super interesting approach, right? And then if we look at some of our other several of our companies don't have sort of engineers as founders. Some of them do. Look, the ideal team is, especially if you're going to have two co-founders, right? One would be, let's say, an engineer. The other one could be a product person or a business person. The reason it's helpful to have a co-founder who's a coder is because you can build faster, right? And otherwise, you're telling the outsourcing company what to do. They've got lots of other things that they have to do. So you're one of their priorities, right? And secondly, you can't see the whole thing is, as a seed stage company, speed is ultra important. Okay. Speed has got to become one of your superpowers, right? You talk to many, many customers during the day, you code all night. Next morning, you ship a new version. And then the next 3 days, you're talking to customers, you're trying to get feedback, you revise, you ship again, right? So that is what you got to do, right? Keep in mind, how do you get to product market fit? We talk a lot about founder market fit, but how do you get to product market fit? You talk to product market fit by launching quickly and iterating fast, super fast, right? And to do that, if one of your co-founders is technical, or let's say you've hired your early set of employees are technical, you will ship just much faster than you will by having an outsourced partner, right? Now, that being said, in your early days, can you, while you're sort of getting going, can you outsource it to a firm? Yes, you can. Do companies do that? Yes, they do. Is that a red flag for us? Yeah, probably. right? Because keep in mind, if you're going to build a technology company and somebody on your co-founding team or your early team, it doesn't have to be one of the co-founders, right? Like Nelly. Nelly's a single founder. She's not a coder, but she actually hired a team of great builders, right? Software builders. I mean, coders, right? Who can actually build and ship SaaS products. So that is, so when we look at a team and like, let's say, okay, they're trying to build a tech company, but they've outsourced the tech. Okay. What do you think we would say about founder market fit? I don't have to give you the answer, right? So we probably say, it's not quite clear yet here. Can they really build and ship software? So if you're in a software business, the business is software. And if you can't build the software, it doesn't matter that you know a lot about HR, right? I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you have to know a lot about HR, but you also have to know a lot about building and shipping software and making software successful. Piyush, I see that you're surprised that we are founder friendly and you really want to work with us. Absolutely. We would also love the opportunity to work with you. So let's see. You're the one who applied at 2:30. So I am personally looking forward to looking at your application. Okay, Alicia,
That's
let's keep going.
all right. Next one is from an Indonesian founder who asks, how are the processes different across countries? Across countries, do you have representation in each country for in-person meetings? I don't think we can do in-person meetings due to COVID for now,
Yeah,
but
look, I mean, that's a great question, by the way. Look, before COVID, we were flying to different countries. We would spend a lot of time in Indonesia. We spent time in Vietnam. We spent time in all other markets. We've been to Bangladesh because we have an investment shop up in that country. But look, since the advent of COVID, so since about middle of March, none of us have gone anywhere, right? In fact, I have barely left my house in Delhi. I'm based in Delhi. We have team members in Singapore. So we have offices, by the way. We have 3 offices in India, offices in Bangalore, Bombay, and Delhi, and then we have an office in Singapore. So our Southeast Asia team is based in Singapore, and so they would fly in and out of these countries. But now we don't, right? So now, by the way, we make decisions entirely virtually. So this next cohort, which will start in mid-November, 100% of those companies, not 100. We have one company that I think we selected before lockdown, but almost all other companies we have never met in person. We have made all those decisions virtually, right? So now obviously we have to spend a lot of time on Zoom calls, getting to know folks. We do a lot of diligence. We look at a lot of data. We look at customers. We talk to customers, right? We do a lot of ref checks, things like that. But that's sort of what we do. There was a question on coding. It's gone past. Look, by the way, we don't expect your founding team to be like world-class coders and build the front end, the back end, build the UI. We don't expect all of that, right? Like all I was saying was the specific question around, if you outsource the entire build out of your software, is that viewed positively or negatively? We don't view it particularly favorably. Now, that being said, look at Surge. One of the great values that we hide is Tilio is a great example, right? Which is a B2B e-commerce company in Vietnam. We helped Saifong and his team hire their CTO and their first 30 engineers while they were at Surge. So this is one of the things you get out of Surge, right? Is we help you actually do all these hiring, etc. So if that is the only concern that you have and you're trying to figure out should I apply to Surge or not, you should apply to Surge. We look at you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, let's say you work with an outsourcing partner, you built a product, there's a lot of customer love, you have very deep domain expertise, and you're very committed to building your engineering team and bringing it in-house. That's perfectly cool. We'll talk to you. We would love to talk to you.
Great. Rajan, I think somebody's asking, when will we be announcing the cohort for Surge 04?
No, so our third cohort is announced. I mean, if you go to surgeahead.com, you will see all the companies. Surge 4 will be announced end of November. So as I said, we start in middle of November, and literally a week or two after that, we'll announce the cohort. So all of you will know who's in our fourth cohort, I don't know, 6 weeks from now. But if you've applied to Surge 4, we still have, we got, as I said, we got thousands of applications, right? We've gone through most of them. But if you haven't heard from us yet, if you apply to Surge 4 before the deadline, and if you haven't heard from us yet, you will hear from us in the next 2 weeks, because we will make all our final decisions over the next 2-3 weeks, because our cohort starts in about 5-6 weeks from now.
Great. I think I think somebody asked if what happens if Surge or Sequoia is investing in another company that's in a competing space, and how are
Yeah,
you
so
thinking
I
about
think look, basically, so let's pick some examples, right? The short answer is, look, if you're competing head on with a company that just was in Surge 3 or Surge 2, that's probably not something we would look at, right? Now, obviously, Surge companies also pivot a lot, right? So, but let's make it real, right? So, Drink Prime is a water purifier as a subscription service company based out of Bangalore. Okay, so they make water purifiers. Instead of selling them to you, they rent them to you at 500 rupees. Let's call it $7 a month per household, right? Let's say you're a Drink Prime, but not in Bangalore. You're in Delhi. Would we invest in that company? No, because we have a Drink Prime already, right? But if you want to launch a Drink Prime in Thailand, okay, we would look at the Drink Prime in Thailand, right? Because Drink Prime, which is a company that we really really like a lot, is still only in one city in Bangalore. They're going to launch in Hyderabad, and it'll take them many years to actually just expand all across India. So that's different, right? So whereas if you're going to launch a Drink Prime in India, we're not going to really look at that, right? So look, that's sort of the way we think about it. Now, keep in mind we invest across the region, India, South Asia, all of Southeast Asia, which is many countries, right? So, and we do think that similar businesses will build across countries. So, if you're building a company, so let's take I don't know, let's just take Rukita, right? Rukita is a co-living company in Indonesia. Will we invest in an exact direct competitor of Rukita in Indonesia? No. But if you're building a Rukita-like company in, I don't know, pick a country, Vietnam, yeah, maybe, right? Depends on, again, it goes back to those three questions: great founding team, market size, early metrics.
Perfect. That's amazing. I think a lot of people also are asking about the references that they have to send in. How do we weight that into the application, one, and two, who do you think would be good references to put in?
Yeah, so look, references, because we get this question a lot, right? References could be former people that you work for, companies, maybe managers that, if you've been working for a couple of years, you worked at one or two other companies, they could be managers or CEOs of those companies or people that you used to report to. It could actually be professors, right? I mean, some of you may be 23 years old, you graduated a year or two ago, you've done one startup. It could be investors, angel investors that you have on your cap table. Some of you may have raised angel money. It could be people that you know in the ecosystem who know you really well, right? Maybe your mentors. They've been mentoring you for 2-3 years to build your company, maybe your previous company. So it could be, look, I wouldn't stress out too much about your references other than, it can't be your dad or mom or your brother, right? Or your best friend at college, who you went to university with, who doesn't really know your professional work, right? So if it's somebody from your college, it should be ideally professors that taught you, so those kinds of things.
Perfect. I
So
think
I
like
think there's a question: what if I don't have two references that we require? Look, that is hard for me to believe, right? I mean, guys, look, my daughter is 14 years old. She's an entrepreneur. She can get two references. You can get two references. Let me tell you. Remember, to build a company, it's going to take you a decade, 10 to 15 years. You're going to go through 5 near-death moments. If you really can't get two references, that worries us a lot. By
great.
the way, if you
I
ask me,
think
like
that's
my
a
14-year-old, okay, this is an interesting question, right? If I go and ask her, get me two references, she took a class on entrepreneurship, I think like 3 years ago when she was 11, right? And then she launched her first company. While she was there, she'd go, her mentor from that, who's an entrepreneur in India, she'd go convince him to give her a reference. And then she'll probably go to a math tutor, math teacher in school and say, please write me a reference she'd convince the math teacher to write her a reference saying like how committed and dedicated a student she is. And that's pretty good. Because part of it is also, right, look, can you convince people who are important to give you a reference? It again shows us persistence.
That's awesome. All right. I think the next question is: will Surge 05 be held offline or online?
That's a great question. Look, it all depends on the vaccine. When a vaccine arrives, it all depends on how many people are vaccinated by the time we start Surge 5. Search for is certainly online. We are going to have 100% of it online. It really depends, guys. Look, I think we don't know, but I think the good thing that has happened because of Surge, because of COVID. I mean, look, there's very few good things in the world that are going to come out of COVID. But at least for Surge, it has helped us understand that we can run Surge online, entirely online, and it's very, very effective, right? So we measure NPS, Net Promoter Scores, after every session that we have, and our NPS is an all-time high. So actually, our Surge program, we are very fortunate to have great feedback from all our founders. They gave us, they think it is as powerful as having it offline. So even after COVID, we will probably move to a hybrid model where it'll be a combination of online and offline.
No, I think that's like what we will probably end up doing, and
Yeah, there's a question
and
from Sagar. I think some of them have asked the same question 4 or 5 times. Let's maybe take another minute or two. And can you just find the question from Sagar?
let me
It's on this chat
let me
box.
Yes, it's unfortunately, Sagar. There's like a avalanche of questions incoming. Sometimes it's also sometimes really difficult to keep track. But thank you so much for asking all of these questions. We really appreciate it. I think a lot of people. My question is simple. That in
Okay, hang on
spite
one
of
sec. There's Sagar's question, right? Look, Sagar's question is we have a turnover of 6.5 crores, which is call it about $900,000, and 1 crore of net profit, which is call it $150,000. In spite of good profitability and scalability, good experience of founder, we have not received any proper. So look, ask the question of how will you paint a picture of how this company becomes $1 billion company, Sagar? See, we're not interested in a company that's going to be 6 crores in revenue and go to 100 crores in revenue. Okay. We're just not interested in that. 100 crores in revenue, maybe the company is going to be valued at 1,000 crores, which is great for the entrepreneur, by the way. You should be very excited about that. But as Surge, we are not interested in that, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? We look for 3 things. You have an awesome team, great founder market fit, perseverance, persistence, etc. Is this a market where you can build $1 billion business, and can we as Surge team build conviction that this will be $1 billion company? And Saga, it could be that in your business, if you haven't been able to articulate, we're not interested in you going from 6 crores to 100 crores, by the way. I mean, that's good. You should do that. But that needs to be along the way to getting to a few thousand crores of revenue. That is the question we're asking. Can this company become a few thousand crores of revenue? And sorry for those of you from SCA, we're talking about crore. A crore is basically about $140,000. Okay, Alicia, maybe I think we're at 5. Maybe we take one more question and wrap.
Yep, definitely. Definitely, we'll just have one. Unfortunately, we only have probably time for one more question. I think this is about technical due diligence. Do we do it? And if yes, is it internally by somebody at Sequoia, or is it done externally?
Sorry, say that again, Alicia.
Do we do technical due diligence? And if yes, is it somebody from Sequoia doing the technical diligence?
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't get into your code and evaluate your code and all that kind of stuff. But Roy, who was Sequoia's CTO, is now a full-time investor in Surge, and is as technical folks get. We also recently brought on board Ajay Gore, who was the former CTO of Gojek, so took Gojek from nothing to a $10 billion company. So we do have technical expertise in-house. So we'll talk to your tech teams, try to get a sense of that. Occasionally, maybe we'll look at code, but we don't do sort of very rigorous sort of code-based diligence. But for instance, if you're building an AI ML company, we will try to understand what is it that you're building and what's proprietary, what's unique, those kinds of things. Hey, I think there were a couple of questions about, if you're building an agriculture-focused company, but there's really no tech in it. Guys, you should keep building that, okay? And keep in mind that if you're solving a problem that is worth solving, and you're able to get customers to use your product, love your product, and ideally pay for your product, you're going to end up building a company, right? But Surge, we focus on tech and tech-enabled companies. So what I would say to the founder that asked this question about agriculture, hey, look, you probably end up building a very large company, but we may not be interested in investing in it only because it doesn't have a tech-enabled component, right? So for those of you that are building companies that don't have any tech in it, That is perfectly fine, by the way, right? As long as you're solving a real problem. But we at Surge may not be for you.
All right, then. We're gonna wrap it up. Unfortunately, thanks so much for taking the time. Evening in Southeast Asia and afternoon in India to chat with us to learn more. We're gonna be doing this once a month, so don't worry if your questions are not yet answered. We'll try to get it in the next time. And as always, let us know if there's anything else that we can do to improve this. We'll send out some. We're basically a startup. We're trying this out as well and seeing how it works. Given the how Surge Decoded has done in the last the last two installments, we're gonna commit to keep doing that for the next couple of times. So thank you so much, guys, for taking time to chat with us. Rajan, thank you so much for spending